Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tosfos Dibra Maschel, My Taima, Yodei Leinayach. Let's begin by looking at a flowchart of the Gemara so we can see what part of the Gemara Tosfos is coming to explain. In our Gemara, Rav asked Rebbe, what's the din if somebody placed on his fellow items, they're both standing in Rosh Hashanah, and then this individual walked down into Rosh Hashanah and put the items down over there in Rosh Hashanah. Is he chayiv or not? And the question is, mi amrinon akiras gufay akiras chayvas dami oloi? Do we say that akir of a person's body amounts to akir of the objects that are on his body or not? This individual certainly did itzah by removing the items and hanacha. The question is, does he have an akira? The question depends on, do we say the akir of the body when he began walking out into Rosh Hashanah amounts to akir of the items, and therefore he has the akir part of the itzah and is chayiv? Or not? Do we say the akir of the body is an akir of the body, but it's not an akir of the items? Rebbe answered, chayiv, he is chayiv. And then Rebbe went on to say, v'lei dami liyodei, it's not similar to his hand. My time, what's the reason? Gufay nayach, yodei loy nayach. Tosfos is going to discuss the words yodei loy nayach. Let's begin with a general outline of Tosfos. The Gemara explained that one's body is at rest, but not one's hand. Tosfos has two parts of Tosfos. Number one is, Tosfos will present a different girsa to this part of the Gemara, which in this girsa it's explained the reason why Yodei loy nayach. Why is it that we distinguish between Gufay and Yodei? And the second part of Tosfos is, Tosfos will present the explanation of Rashi for why Yodei loy nayach, and he'll disagree with him and bring a proof to show why he disagrees with Rashi. Let's now see Tosfos in the flowchart. So Rebbe told Rav, v'lei dami liyodei, my time, and what's the reason? Why is a person's body different than his hand? Because Gufay nayach, his body's at rest, Yodei loy nayach, his hand's not at rest. Says Tosfos, Re said that there's an alternative girsa to our Gemara, and that's the correct girsa. And that girsa says, Yadei de basar gufa greira boy akira. A person's hand that is dragged, associated after his body, that needs an akira. In other words, when it says Yodei leinayach, it's referring to a specific case, a case where a person's hand is extended into another rishus. That's when his hand is not at rest. And the reason is because Yadei basar gufei greira, a person's hand is associated with his body. So if it's in the same property as his body, then he's at rest, his hand's at rest, his whole body's at rest. However, if his hand is in a different rishus, we don't say that the body's at rest in this rishus and the hand's at rest in that rishus. Rather, Yadei basar gufei greira, the hand is dragged after the body. And therefore, it's not considered at rest in the other rishus since it's associated with the body. And Re said that even according to our girsa, that just says simply Yodei loy nayach, the reason for it is based on that other girsa. Why is it not nayach? Because it's in another rishus and Yodei basar gufei greira. In other words, Tosfos explains that although when we read the Gemara simply, it seems to be saying that a person's hand is never at rest, it's actually speaking about a very specific case. When the hand is extended into another rishus, then it's not at rest. And that's why this, by the way, explains why is it when the Balabayas placed something into the hand of the Ani, and the Ani brought it out and did a hanacha in the Rishus Harabim, the Ani is not chayiv. Why isn't he chayiv? He has the itzah, he has the hanacha, and if the person's hand is at rest, then he also, when he started moving his hand, he has the akira. Because Yodei loy nayach, a person's hand is not at rest when it's in another Rishus. According to the explanation that it's never at rest, it also answers that question. But according to that explanation, it's never at rest. Now Tosfos continues and presents Rashi's explanation. Now, by the way, many Mefarshim say that Rashi actually agrees with this explanation that we just presented of the Re in Tosfos. However, Tosfos had a different understanding of Rashi. Rashi says his hand isn't resting on the ground. That's the issue. Yodei loy nayach al gabe karka, on the ground. So according to this, it seems that if somebody placed something into his fellow's hand, he put something into the person's hand, when they're both in Rosh Hashanah, and his fellow walked out with it into the Rosh Hashanah and put it down, he's pater. It's also obviously, because he walked out with it, did hanacha, but it's not chayiv. Why isn't it chayiv? Because he put it into the guy's hand, and the hand's not at rest. If it's not at rest, you can't do an akira. It was never munach to do an akira from that state. So Tosfos disagrees with this, and Tosfos asks, but we know that if somebody places something on somebody's shoulder, or if he put it into his hand, he's going to be chayiv if he walks out with it. How do we know this? So Tosfos brings a proof. We see this in our Mishnah. It says in our Mishnah that if the Ani placed something into the Balabayas' hand, he's chayiv, or if he took something out of the Balabayas' hand and brought it out, he's also chayiv for hitzah. Now, why is he chayiv? He removed it from the Balabayas' hand, but the Balabayas' hand is not at rest. It's not resting on the ground, so the Ani should be pater. Since the hand is not at rest, he never did an akira. Akira has to be from a place that it's munach. If the Balabayas' hand is not at rest, then the Ani wouldn't have been chayiv. So obviously it is at rest. And since it's at rest, there's no difference whether the person puts something on his shoulder or if he puts an item in his hand. If this individual now walked out with it, he would be chayiv. So to summarize Tosfos, first Tosfos explained the reason why yadei le'naich. He said the reason is because that hand is dragged after the body, and therefore this only applies to a case where the hand is in a different rishus, then it's not at rest. However, if the hand is in the same rishus as the person, then obviously, just like the person's body is at rest, the hand is part of his body, the hand is also at rest. The second part of Tosfos, he presented an explanation of Rashi that he had, which is that the hand is never at rest because it's not on the ground. So to speak, there's a person's body, it's at rest on the ground, and then the person has separately his hands, and the hands are not at rest on the ground. And according to this explanation, it would come out that if somebody put something on another individual's shoulder and he walked out with it, he'd be chayiv. However, if he placed it into the person's hand and he walked out with it, he wouldn't be chayiv, since there's no akira for the hand, because the hand was never at rest in the first place. And Tosfos said this is incorrect, and he brought a proof from our Mishnah, where it says that if the ani removes something from the Baal Habayis' hand, and he brought it out into Rosh Hashanah, he's chayiv. That shows us clearly that he took it from the Baal Habayis' hand. It shows us clearly that the Baal Habayis' hand is considered at rest in Rosh Hashanah, and therefore he did an akira from Rosh Hashanah and brought it out into Rosh Hashanah, and that's why he's chayiv.